For real? Man. Sometimes I just want to end this Just bam. Look, man, don't bother.
No, I'll bother. I'm getting paid. And besides, you remind me of me.
Dwayne Forge gets written off a lot. People see a washed-up ex-Kingpin clinging to the past, a man the city left behind, but he's more than that. In Grand Theft Auto 4, Dwayne may not play a major role in the story, but what he represents, especially when it comes to Niko, makes him one of the most important characters in the entire game. Because when you really sit with it, Dwayne isn't just another side mission. He's not just a random character that pops up in the main story. His past, his trauma, his current problems and situation overall is a reflection, a mirror held up to Niko at his core. We've talked before about how much of Niko's journey is built on trying to make sense of his past. He's hunting down Florian, tracking Darko, chasing some kind of closure for what happened to his unit. As misguided as it is, he still believes that if he can find those answers, then he can move on. He can find the closure and, after a decade, not continue to have the immense survivor's guilt. Maybe the pain will start to make more sense. Dwayne doesn't have that kind of hope, though. He's not haunted by the past in a metaphorical way. He lived it. He served time for it, and now he's come out into a world that just doesn't care. He's not searching for meaning, he's just trying to survive the wreckage of whatever remained from his previous life. Where Niko still appears to have some kind of emotion, still pretending there's something waiting for him at the end of the road, Dwayne has already stopped. The world passed him by. The people are gone. The city is not the same. And all he has left are the pieces. So no, Dwayne isn't just a tragic character. He's what happens after the war, after the sentence, after the belief that things can still be fixed. He's what Niko risks becoming, or maybe even what Niko had already become at a point. Given Niko's clear sympathy towards Dwayne, it's quite possible he was already in that place and just barely managed to get out of it. That of course opens up many avenues for speculation. But on the surface of what we do know, there are already a lot of similarities between the two of them. Beyond just being stuck in the past, both Niko and Dwayne are heavily shaped by betrayal. They grew up in violent homes. Both had mothers who tried and fathers who didn't. Dwayne had an abusive alcoholic father, just as Niko and Roman did. All three of them speak very fondly of their mothers, and that's not where it all ends. It's how Dwayne and Niko dealt with it. Niko ran off to war. Dwayne stood home and built an empire. One tried to escape while the other tried to control whatever he could. And in the end, both got swallowed by it. They've lost a lot. That kind of loss doesn't just go away. Niko covers it up by staying busy. Yes, he jokes. Yes, he works. He keeps moving because standing still means facing it. Dwayne doesn't hide from any of it at all. He just lets it sit with him. All he does is have time to think and dwell. The regret, the emptiness, the years he just can't get back. It's all right there, staring directly at him. So when Niko meets him, it's not just sympathy, it is recognition. He sees a man who has been through the same kind of hell. Someone who knows what it's like to carry the weight and never feel like it's gone. And maybe that's why Niko helps him. Not because he has to or purely because he's getting money, but because he feels it's the right and best thing for him to do. On some level, he is Dwayne. And Dwayne is, or perhaps was, him.
Let me tell you, man, I never wanted to be no drug dealer.
No?
No, I wanted to be... Shit, this'll make you laugh. You know what I wanted to be?
No.
I wanted to be a cop.
Really? What did...
Like a lot of people in this world, Dwayne didn't get to choose the life he ended up in. He was born around 1973 and grew up in North Holland. He lived in the Westminster Towers, which was considered to be one of the roughest housing projects in all of Liberty City. The place was full of gangs, drugs, and violence, and inside of all of that, he had a father who drank too much and took it out on him and his mother. However, what makes Dwayne different is that he didn't seem to want any part of the life around him. He wasn't chasing fast money or trying to be some neighborhood boss. He never talked about cars or women or trying to make a name for himself. In fact, from the way he tells it, he just wanted something better. He actually wanted to be a cop of all things. That was the dream, for him to put on a badge and do some good. That dream can also say a lot about just how much he hated his father, because being a cop wasn't just about doing the right thing, it was about rejecting everything that man stood for. The violence, the fear, the way people got stepped on and thrown away. Dwayne didn't just hate what happened in his home, he hated what the street life did to people. And so wanting to join the LCPD could have been his way of running in the opposite direction. Because remember, his father, by his own words, was an alcoholic, illiterate pimp and drug dealer. And speaking of which, he talks about his father with absolutely no filter. There's no grief, just cold, brutal honesty. One of the moments that stuck with him most, when it came to a vivid memory with his dad, which in a twisted way sounds like the most someone can ever be to actually being a father, by providing your son with a lesson, was anything but that. Dwayne at one point shares with Niko that his dad told him to always expect the worst, so he can be pleasantly surprised. And then without any warning, he followed that up with a beating. You could try to play it off as some kind of life lesson, but it wasn't. It was just pure cruelty. His mom was the only one, as far as he was concerned, that really tried. Dwayne talks about her like she was the one person who genuinely cared. Says she, quote-unquote, tried so hard to keep the family together. In one harrowing story, to contrast his two parents, he recalls how his mom brought his father a set of golf clubs, thought maybe it'd make him feel more sophisticated, on account of his father marveling at his friend recently getting golf clubs himself. But instead, this gift, this kind-hearted move by his mom was only met with brutality. His dad ended up breaking those golf clubs over her back. That was the gratitude he expressed to her. Eventually, Dwayne's father got himself killed. Apparently, he tried to rip off the wrong people and got shot on his own doorstep. Dwayne says that he never felt anything when it happened. In truth, he didn't know if he was happy or just relieved. Relieved that the man who tormented his mother was finally gone, that there'd be no more beatings, no more screaming through the walls, no more fear with no reason, just silence. For the first time in his life, the house felt somewhat peaceful. However, his father's death didn't change much beyond that. It didn't permanently fix their situation. It didn't open up some brand new door, push Dwayne toward a better life. If anything, it felt like one last insult from the man. Because even with him gone, Dwayne's dream of becoming a police officer didn't go anywhere. And there were two reasons for that. First, Dwayne couldn't read that well. Just like his father, he grew up in the same place, stuck in the same cycle, and despite wanting something better for himself, he was just as illiterate as the man he hated. And because of that illiteracy, he didn't have the education to pass the entrance exam. And even if he did, it probably wouldn't have mattered much, considering the LCPD wasn't looking to hire black officers back then. Not seriously anyways, and not in that part of town. Despite facing discrimination from the one path he actually believed in, and having his education hold him back at every turn, it still doesn't sound like Dwayne immediately jumped into the criminal life. He didn't go running straight to the streets. He tried to stay out of it. It took him hitting rock bottom first, going through a stretch of homelessness, which implies that his mom possibly passed away at a young age, and with her death went any support system or any kind of outside help. There's no definitive timeline when Dwayne suffered this stretch of homelessness, but what is clear is during this time, he was given the opportunity to really reassess everything. And it was here where he figured out what he actually had to offer. Or as he put it, the only marketable skills he had, which were two. He could add numbers, and he could scare people. That's all it took. With that, the decision was made for him. He stepped into the same life he hated growing up, the same world he swore he'd never be a part of, and he fell into the same drug game his father was in, albeit with a different mentality and an entirely different level of success.
The money was insane. Crack took off and it went crazy. Never made me happy though. Made me fucking miserable, but I was good at it. The best. Sort of fun and sort of like living in hell. Seeing your old schoolmates turn into zombies and knowing they was gonna be your best customers.
Dwayne's rise on the streets wasn't just fast, it was completely unmatched. Between 1988 and 1999, he was pulling in serious money. At one point, he was making over 50 grand a week, which would be closer to around $120,000 today, and it was not slowing down. He was making so much cash, in fact, he started buying up luxury apartments all over Liberty City. Not to live in, just to store the money. That's how much was coming in. And even with that spending, there was no real ceiling. his operation was solid. He built strong connections across the city, and more importantly, he locked down a monopoly on the purest crack cocaine available. That one move made his dealers the go-to choice. He offered a better product for the same price, which meant no real competition. But like the old saying goes, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Dwayne's rise came with problems. You don't get to take up entire neighborhoods and corner the market on crack without making enemies. A lot of people started to resent him. Whether profits dried up, he continued to climb. And the more money he made, the more people began to notice him. That kind of success brought a lot of attention. And with that attention came a lot of paranoia. And because of that, Dwayne started pulling back. He began to keep his distance, only trusted a handful of people. The more he had, the less secure he began to feel. Even with all the money, the apartments, and the power, Dwayne says he was miserable, paranoid, and angry. Maybe it was the pressure. Maybe it was knowing everyone around him either wanted something or just wanted him gone. Whatever the reason, the success did not bring him peace. It only made everything worse. This led him to lean on just two people. One was a woman he would call the love of his life, Charisse Glover. The other was a kid from the neighborhood who was only 8 years old when they first met. His name was Trey Stewart. Most people would later know him as Playboy X. It says a lot that during the peak of his success, Dwayne still stayed loyal to Charisse and continued to look out for Playboy. Both choices came from the same place. Even with all the money and power, Dwayne never lost that part of himself that cared. He had a tough exterior, sure, and he was making a fortune selling drugs that ruined lives, but underneath all of that, there was still a good heart trying to hold on to what mattered to him. When he talks to Niko about that time of his life, he recalled about how he wanted a family, said he wanted to settle down, have kids, and with Charisse that felt possible. She wasn't just someone he spent time with, she was someone he genuinely saw a future with. And with Playboy, it was different, but still very personal. Dwayne didn't take him in to show him the ropes, he did it because he saw how badly the kid wanted the life he had. But from the start, it was clear to Dwayne that Playboy was smart, but he wasn't built for the streets. He wasn't ready for the kind of life Dwayne had carved out. And without any kind of help, without someone guiding him, Trey would never have survived. So Dwayne decided to step in, gave him the mentorship he never had, and Playboy technically received it from the best he could have ever gotten a mentorship from. Dwayne cared about the two of them. He kept them close when everything else in his life was starting to fall apart. And yeah, later on in Grand Theft Auto 4, they would both turn on him in their own ways. Charisse would push him away like he was nothing, while Playboy tried to erase him completely. But neither of them were the reason his world collapsed. That started with someone else entirely, Javon Simpson. Now, Javon wasn't a rival or an enemy out on the streets. He was actually a friend. He was someone Dwayne trusted. And that's what made it so hard to swallow. Because he wasn't just another random jealous face in the crowd, he was someone who actually had a seat at Dwayne's table. That jealousy could have possibly been sitting with him for years. He watched Dwayne rise up, watched him make real money, take over entire neighborhoods, build something that was genuinely respected. Whether if Javon was stuck chasing scraps or felt envy out of the fact that he could have very well have been in Dwayne's shadow from what it sounds like. The bottom line was Javon let it all eat at him. And so, he would do the one thing unimaginable. Go straight to the police. Tipped them off. He handed Dwayne to them on a silver platter. And thanks to his cooperation with law enforcement, that would be exactly what brought Dwayne down. Who, despite the immense amounts of paranoia he was already experiencing, didn't even see it coming. And to be fair, how could you? It's often believed that the most paranoid people are the ones easily deceived. And it's gotta be one hell of an existence to just constantly be on edge in this overactive state of high alert, suspicious of everyone's intentions of what they're aiming for, what they're trying to do, or what they're trying to get out of you. And Dwayne, like many others in this position of being overly suspicious, did seem like he was taking active precautions. He shrunk his inner circle down to just 3 people, Charisse, Playboy, and Javon. He kept his distance from everybody except for them 3, and unfortunately, it was one of those 3 that directly led to what he feared most, being brought down by law enforcement. Javon's betrayal wasn't loud or dramatic, it was quiet, cold, and understandably it cut deeper than anything else ever could. Because coming from enemies is one thing, but it's entirely different when it comes from your inner circle. But as we all know, Javon was just the beginning.
Playboy don't want to hang no more. He pays for you to come over instead. My girlfriend, the love of my fucking life. Man, I was pulling moves in the joint so this bitch could pay rent. Now she won't answer the phone. Man, I gave her everything when I was inside. Cars, houses, apartments, bank accounts, everything.
Thanks to Javon's cooperation with the police, Dwayne was arrested in the 1990s for running his crack cocaine empire. But before he was sent off to serve his sentence, he made some key arrangements. At the time, they felt like smart moves. Long-term plans, ways to make sure everything he built wouldn't fall apart in his absence. First, he left his operation in the hands of Trey Stewart, the kid he'd mentored since he was 8 years old. Dwayne had seen the potential he had early on. Trey was sharp, ambitious, and out of everyone Dwayne could have trusted, he felt like he was the right one to carry the torch. With his empire's future secured, he then moved to secure everything else. He locked down his bank accounts. He made sure the luxury apartments filled with cash were still accessible. Everything was left in place, from the money, the property, the structure. All of it was set up in such a way that the people who were still loyal to him would be taken care of, even if he wasn't physically there. And from the way Dwayne tells it, things actually seemed fine at first. That whole system, everything he set in place, was actually working. He was able to manage the gang from prison for a short while too. He still had reach, power. His voice and his name carried something. And when it came to Charisse, he didn't hold back. He gave her access to everything, whatever she needed. The apartments, the cars, the money. He made sure she was well taken care of. There was never a day that would go by where she had a single want. By all accounts, Dwayne might have been behind bars, but in his mind, the empire was still standing. The people he loved were still loyal, and while his world might have felt like it was temporarily on pause, it didn't fall apart with his sentence. At least not for a couple months or maybe even a couple of years. It's hard to say because there's no real timeline or apparent catalyst of what started it all to go downhill. So saying something definitively here is a little difficult. Maybe the real blow came from Playboy. He was supposed to be the future after all, the one Dwayne raised up and trusted most, and handed his empire to. But 2004 was the last time Playboy ever visited him in prison. That could very well be the moment he cut ties for good, walked away from the man who gave him everything and handed him all his wealth, and decided to chase his own name instead. Still, looking back on it, the signs were probably there for a while before that. Based on Dwayne's police record and the way he talks about those years, it's clear he was already losing his grip, not just on the empire, but on his mind, on Charisse, on everything that previously mattered. His record shows he spent much of his sentence on suicide watch, and considering he was locked up starting in the 1990s, that tells you a lot. It means him falling apart most likely didn't start in 2004 because he was released only 4 years later in 2008, and he'd been hanging on by a thread for years at that point. The thing about their betrayal, though, isn't that they just moved on. They took everything from him. Playboy didn't just hold the empire together, he rebuilt it, took what Dwayne created and reshaped it into something new. Bigger, louder, much more cutthroat. He threw away Dwayne's old school principles and focused on whatever would bring in the most profit. Under his leadership, the operation exploded. He expanded into other areas, even dipped into businesses that looked much more legitimate. But the heart of it was still drugs. That was where the real money came in. Playboy built connections outside of whatever Dwayne established. And it was with people like Elizabeth Torres that he started overseeing deals across the entire city, no matter what drugs were involved. Now, given the way we step into the story through Niko's eyes, it's clear Playboy has already made peace with the idea that Dwayne was long gone for good. So when Dwayne shows up at his apartment a few days later, it throws him off.
Yo, player!
Fuck you want?
There's someone here for you. Dwayne or some shit, I don't know.
Motherfucker got out? Damn. My dude!
What's up, son? What's going down?
You didn't tell me you was getting out? Man, I would've laid on a party, got some freaks out. Shit.
I called. Couple of times.
Man, hey, Dwayne, this is Niko.
Hey.
Niko Dwayne Forge.
And the interaction here is so damn important because it shows Playboy trying to act happy to see him. It says all of the right things, but it's obvious it's just a front. His previous conversation with Niko already made it clear that he wasn't exactly fond of the idea of working with Dwayne again and seemed hopeful but reluctant upon the prospect of his release, because him getting out would signal a conflict of interest. He's well aware of his obligation to his former mentor, but his goals are no longer aligned with him, and it was much easier to dodge him when he was locked behind bars, which he continues to do. He continues to keep his distance, play it safe, and uses Niko as a middleman. He even pays him at first just to check in on Dwayne and make sure nothing's going wrong. All of which are things Dwayne knows. He says so straight to Niko's face that he knows he's being paid to check in on behalf of Playboy, who doesn't even want to spend time with him anymore. He acknowledges that Playboy was dodging his phone calls, that even when he showed up at his apartment unannounced and brought it all up to his attention, he just dodges it all. He won't acknowledge the phone calls. He won't acknowledge his refusal of getting back to the cocaine business. He just avoids the topics entirely. And Charisse, she didn't just forget Dwayne. She started sleeping with Javon, the same man who sold him out. While Dwayne sat in a cell, still thinking she was a part of his life, she was getting closer to the person who destroyed it. She kept taking the money, lived in the apartment, spent everything he gave her. And over time, she pulled back more and more. The calls became less frequent, as did the letters and the visits, until they stopped altogether. And by the time Dwayne got out, she wasn't hiding anything anymore. She was walking around with Javon out in the open, comfortable, like Dwayne had never been part of her life at all. And the person that she's with wasn't the one that ripped everything from him. And that's the life he returned to. A hollow world where everything he built was gone, and the people he handed everything to, with the purest intentions to look out for them, took it all and moved on. It's a life Niko can't help but sympathize with in almost every step of the way. Now, I touched on this in Niko's video, and I think it's important to bring up here. And that's when Playboy asks him to kill Dwayne, Niko reacts differently than he does with any other job. With most contracts, he's sarcastic, cold, sometimes even a little reluctant to take care of another person's problems, whether if he's getting paid or not. But he's never uncomfortable. It's only with Playboy's request to kill Dwayne does he push back. He outright says he doesn't like the conversation, and for a cold-blooded killer, he admits that he's uncomfortable. And it's very clear that the whole conversation and idea of killing Dwayne is something that just doesn't sit right with him. Because he knows Dwayne isn't just another job. He's the version of himself that never left the cell. Where Dwayne had material wealth but lost his freedom, Niko had freedom but lost everyone he cared about. The two men are reflections, different prisons but the same ruin. And there are two conversations that really drive that point home for each of them. For Niko, it's the one he has with Roman while on their way to finally confront Darko. After all this time, after 10 years of chasing ghosts, he's left questioning what he's even good at anymore, what he really has to offer. He's not looking for revenge. He's trying to figure out if there's anything left of the person he used to be, and whether that part of him is even worth saving anymore.
I lost myself that day too. Everything that was good and innocent in me died along with them. If I could live those hours again, I think I would have preferred to be buried in the pit along with everyone else. This is all that is left of me. What am I good at, Roman? What is my trade? I deal in debt. Because that is all that is open to me.
For Dwayne, it's something he actually says during a hangout with Niko. After spending some time together, he opens up again. And not just about what he's been through, but how it's changed him. He admits he's not sure he can feel anything anymore. That all the years of fighting, the time inside, the people he lost, it wore him down. He wonders if he ever really had an innocence to begin with. And if he did, it's long gone now. What's left is someone who's not sure if he even knows how to live without all of that pain, or even is capable of feeling anything besides numb.
And after a while, you stop hurting. And that ain't the problem at all.
No?
Nah. Problem is, you realize it's all the same shit. You're in prison, outside, with the woman, on your own, with money, broke, happy, unhappy. Don't mean shit. You realize life don't mean shit, man. You teach yourself to stop caring.
I know about that.
But it's hard, man. I don't know how to fix that shit. I don't know how to care no more. Damn, listen to me. I'm pathetic.
These moments, the quiet ones, the vulnerable ones, are what makes Grand Theft Auto 4 so unforgettable. And getting the chance to revisit these characters, to really sit with their pain, their choices, and the weight they carry, that means everything to me. So thank you, truly, for watching, for supporting, and for giving me a reason to keep telling these kinds of stories. If there's a character from Grand Theft Auto 4 you'd love to see covered next, whether it's someone overlooked or someone who hit you hard, drop it down in the comments. I'm always listening. And if you want to go even deeper into this world, consider joining the Patreon. This video was released early over there. And there's a bunch of extra content, behind the scenes breakdowns, exclusive podcasts, deeper dives into lore and structure, all created for the people who believe in what this channel is slowly building. And a huge thank you to Kingpin for being one of the first to support me there. You helped make this possible. More stories are coming, the kind that hopefully just don't entertain but stay with you.